Okay, hello everybody, welcome back to this exciting episode of Bob the Sign Man. Today we're going to be doing the text on our dead end project sign. So I will go ahead and open up our sign project. I'm going to close this out. Um, so what we want to do is open up our project that we've been saving. So we go to File, we go to Open, and there's the dead end sign project. We're going to open that up. As you remember the last episodes, we made the border, showed you how to do those, make the blanks, and here we go. What we're going to do is we're going to add the text to our dead end sign. So what we want to do is we're going to add the end. So on our sheet that we had, let me find my sheet and I'll be right back with you. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to bring up our spec sheet for our sign. And what we're going to do is we're going to find the text where it says dead and end. That's D. So we're going to follow down on the D columns. We're making the 36 inch, so it's going to be 7-inch series D. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to select our Highway Gothic series D 7-inch, and we're going to click our text tool over at the top, and the text tool is also up here, but I like to text it here on the side. And we're just going to type in dead and end. Okay, so that's 7-inch. Actually, it changed the series on me. It's supposed to be 7-inch. So I'm going to go up here to 7, punch the 7 in, and you'll see the dead end get bigger. The dead, and then the end. Same thing, we want to change that to 7. And we'll hit the enter button. There we go. We got 7-inch text now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add in some centers here on my project. You can see the little dot. Just try to get your reference lines as close as you can to the center. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to bring our dead over. Let's kind of center it up, and we're going to bring the end over. We're going to center it up on the centers, and that's kind of what it's going to look like, but it's not quite in there just perfect. You can see the dead end from the end of the D, the face of the D to the end of the D is the G and H combination. So you find your G and H, 11,375 and 11.938. You add those together and you come up with 23.313. So that's how long your text is going to have to be. Just pull this out of the way. So we want to be 23.313 inches from here to here. This is where it gets a little confusing and a little bit harder. What we want to do is I'm going to set up a little box here. This is about the easiest way for me to do this. I'm going to go 1 inch in the height, and then we're going to go 23.313 inches in the length. Tab, hit your tab key, 0, 0. Tab key, we're going to make a straight little box. So this is basically, if I can do this right here, I'm going to slide this over a little bit. See how it turned red here? And I'm going to bring another one over. So it's red there. So now this is how wide the dead has to be. I'm going to slide that over a little bit. As you can see, we have some space here, so it's not exactly the full length that we want to be at the 23.313. So I'm going to slide that over. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in another reference line. I'm going to set that dead in the middle. Okay, and I'm going to set my dead sign in the middle. See the series here through the middle? So we have to stretch from this blue line to this blue line, and it's almost there. You could say, well, that's good enough, but I don't do good enough. I have to do perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to stretch that out. Now, there's a couple ways you can stretch this out. I found the easiest way, and what you don't want to do is you just don't want to pick up your tool and just pull it out to your lines like that. Okay, you'd say, oh, there we go, we've got it. But what you've done now is you've changed the style of the letter. Watch what happens. The further you stretch this out, see how it stretches the font? So that's not acceptable. So what we want to do, we want to go up and highlight. Let me show you this real quick. So I have everything centered in here. I have the dead centered in here, and this is our lines where we want to be to the edge. And you can see they're not red yet on the edges. When they touch the edge, see how it'll turn red? So we've got a little bit of space to make up in there. I'm going to center that back again. So what you're going to do is you're going to come up here, highlight your text tool, and just highlight the word dead. And then you're going to come up to here, and you're going to hit your character spacing. It's this little tool right here. It's right next to the fixed length. It should be in the same bar here. So just go ahead and click that. And see what it did is it brought up these. Now you can stretch this thing out and see how far it stretched those out, and it didn't change the width of the characters. It still left them the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to stretch this out until we see how it's turned red there, but it's not red here. So we're just going to bump that a little bit. So now we have red to this side, and this side it's all red. Go ahead and we'll back out of that. So now this little bar that we measured out that was 23.313, this is exactly what the spec calls for with the dead. G and H, you add the G and the H together and you get 23.313. So that word dead is exactly how it should be. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to take this dead and I'm just going to pull it over in the middle, and I'm going to center it up kind of just about where it should be. Now we're going to do the same thing with the end. We're going to go ahead, we're going to set it in the center here. Okay, and then we're going to figure out, bring my reference back over, J and K. So we're going to add J and K together, and we're going to come up with, see the J right here, 7.875 and 8.750. Add those two together and you get 16.25 or 16.625. I'm sorry. So now what we're going to do is we're going to change this bar to 16.625. We'll click OK. And then we're going to center that bar. Since it's highlighted blue, use your arrows. You can arrow over. Highlight that right in the middle. And then bring your ends over. See how it turned red? And then this line here, once you get your blue line over there, it'll turn red too. I'd have to work them back and forth a little bit. And the end is almost perfect, but it's not quite perfect. So what we're going to do, select our text again, scroll over, come up to our character spacing tool again, which is this little tool right here. Click that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull this over till it's red. That one's not quite on where it should be. We'll just pull this side over a little bit more. Now see, we went over a little bit. I mean, it's pretty darn close. It wouldn't be, but we're just going to get it. See if we can get it just perfect. Go ahead and we'll grab this tool again, bring it over. So there we go. We've got a red line there, and right there on the end is a red line. So that's 16.625 to the millimeter, centimeter, whatever decimal we're working with. So I'm going to grab the end and I'm going to bring it over to here, and I'm going to center it in my sign. And I'm going to get rid of this little reference line here. And I'm going to save those because I'm probably going to need those again. Actually, I'm going to bring that back. I just hit Control Z. I'm going to be using that again. So now here's what your dead end sign kind of looks like. And you think, oh, well, I can just bring this down a little bit. And hey, the letters or the spacing, it looks good. But not quite good enough. So here's your center of your sign. And when you look up here, here's your center line going across, which is this blue line. So, and this line here, E, so from the bottom of our lettering dead, from the center line, if you look at E, you go down, you find E, it's supposed to be 2 inches. So we're going to bring this bar up height, we're going to go 2 inches on it. So now this is now at 2 inches at height. We'll bring it down until the bottom line turns red, right there. And then we'll bring another reference line down. And sometimes you have to work those a little bit to get them to line up. There we are, it's red. So we're going to bring our dead down, and we are going to match it up. See how the bottom now turned red? So that's exactly where it should be. And the end, when you bring up your sheet again, when you look at the end from the center line to the top of the E, the N, and the D, it's 3 inches. See where I got that number? F here, 36-inch sign, so it should be 3 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and move this box now. We're going to change it to 3 inches in height. And I'm going to bring it down. And I'm just going to bring another reference line in here. See how it's red now? So this is 3 inches from here to here. And that's where the top of your E, N, and D should be. So we're going to bring that down. And see how I had this centered down the center line, and I had that centered up there. Now take a look at your sign. You think, perfect, that's the way it should be, that's the way it looks, but not quite. Here's what we have to do yet. I want to get this lined up perfect, and I'll show you how we do that. I'm going to go ahead and pull this reference out here. I'll bring this bar up here. Now, we're showing G from the center line to the face of the D is column G, which is 11.375. So I'm going to change this box length to 11.375. And I'm going to line this up to the center. See how it turned red? Now this front of this box here is where the front of this D should be. So I'm going to highlight the D, and I'm going to just slide it over until it just disappeared. See how that line is just right on the line. So that's our spec there. And then the end of the E should be J, and it's 7.875. So I'm going to change this box to 7.875. Click OK. I'm going to bring that to the center. Now I got that one exact. See how the red, it turned red, so that's at the center. And the front of this box should be with the front of the E. So we're going to slide the E over. And we've got it. So there we are, all lined up. And if you want to do another check just to make sure that everything's okay, see the H right here from the face of the D to the center line, it's showing it should be 11.938. So we'll change this box to length 11.938. I think it was 938. We'll click OK. And we'll pull this over to the center. And it turned red, and you can see it just lines up just perfect. And just for the heck of it, let's just do our, since we're here, we'll do our end of the D, and that calls for, from the face of the D, that's K, to the center line, that should be 8.75. So I'm going to change this box to 8.75. Click OK. And as you can see, it's right exactly where it should be. Here's the center of the D. So our sign is to spec. I'm going to delete this box and get rid of these reference lines. So our sign right now is to spec. Everything is perfect with this sign. There's going to be no problems with this sign. It's compliant to every last little decimal point of our sign. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to group my borders together. Shift. I'm going to group them, and then I am going to combine them, turn them on, and then hold down on your shift. Let's do the D, the dead, and the end, and then hit your F6 to group them together. So now whenever I highlight something, it'll highlight the dead end and the borders. And that's what our sign is going to look like. So you can't really send this off to the printer looking like this, because what's going to happen is going to cut 36-inch if you have 36-inch material. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight the whole thing. We're going to copy it. We're going to come over here. We're going to paste it. Hit your space bar. Okay, now this is what our sign's going to look like. Okay, and this is going to be our plotter ready copy. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and touch the outside of the sign, and we're going to delete that. So now what we've made is we made a copy of just this part here without the outside. And now what we're going to do is we're going to turn that on its side, and we're going to go to shape. We're going to go directed roll. We're going to go 45 degrees, click OK, and see the little double arrow with the plus there. Hit the inside, hover it over the inside of our middle of our sign, and just click that. See how it turned it on its side? So now you have a sign already made up. You can change this now to a W14-1. I'll show you. So what you want to do is you want to save it. So you're going to save it as, wherever you're going to save yours, have your folders or whatever, and you're going to save this as a W14-1 36-inch. And then you just click save. So when you go to pull this back up again, you'll have your W14-1. And then what I'll usually do on these two is I'll come up and I'll grab just grab a different text, so you can write in some and we're going to change this to 2 inches. Hit the 2 and then enter, and then we're going to go W14-1 36-inch radius. Let's go 2.25 inch radius, and you can put a little slash in the middle there if you want to. So now when you pull up your sign, you'll pull it up. Let's just take this whole thing, kind of move it over here a little. And so when you pull up your sign, when you want to make a dead end sign, it'll say W14-1. You can put dead end in the description, however you want to identify it. I just usually use my MUTCD numbers. So when you pull this sign up, and let's toggle our F8, this is what it's going to look like. So all you're going to have to do, since you have all this grouped together, is you're just going to hit this. You're going to come up to File, and you're just going to output selected. You're not going to output all, otherwise it's going to send everything on the desktop. So you just want to hit output selected. And then what it's going to do, see the little wheel spin in there, it's going to bring up your cutter. Just click OK, remove those. So this is your plotter now, how it's going to cut. So everything that's black and blue, it's going to cut. I usually remove that outside border unless you really want them, but I'll just remove the outside border with the weed border tool, and then this is a weed sectioning tool, and then this will be a repeats. So I'm going to go ahead and click, see this little E, and watch, see it got rid of that. So now I'm going to put some borders, some weeding in here. Horizontal, if you do 4, for some reason it's going to put 3, so always do one more. So we're going to do 5, and we're going to get 4 lines, 1 2 3 4. I don't know why it doesn't do what you ask it to do, but so now when you weed it out, it might be a little easier. And sometimes what I'll do, go back up to this, I'll do a grid, and you can move these cut lines around if you want to, or you can just totally get rid of one. Sometimes I'll just, on these bigger signs like this, I'll just, you know, do a couple one way and this way, just enough to pull out the weeding section that you want. So anyways, that'll send it off to the plotter. Then you just hit your cut. I'll probably do a whole video on the plotter. Anyways, that's kind of that. I'm just going to close that out. But anyways, like I said, just every time you make a sign, and you think, but that's a lot of work to make a sign. Well, once you make the sign, it's perfect. It's in there, and you won't have to remake it again. Make sure you save it. I'm fortunate enough here at the county that we have an IT department where I can't lose this stuff. They just back up. I tell them, hey, about 2 o'clock I made a, they'll just back up the whole thing and recover anything that I lost, which is good. There might be other ways to adjust the text, but I haven't found any that works for me without keeping the ratio the same, so that way it's all the same ratio, and I don't have to worry about sending out the sign wrong or anything like that, because I know, let me show you something real quick here on this, since we are working with text, is so if I do that dead end again, let me go up and grab the Highway Gothic D. We're going to go the 7-inch. It's 7. So go D, the dead. Let's go down a couple, and there's another little tool you can use. When you click your you pull up some little reference lines here. Suppose you had to move your D into between those blue lines. So you can click this, and then you click in between the letters. Hold down on your shift key, and then on your keyboard above the period and the comma mark, you have these little arrows, like the arrowheads, not the whole shaft of it, but just the arrows, that goes either left or right. So when you hold down on the shift, you can see how the one push on the arrow, how it'll give you a little, you can move your letters in and out, but see, they're not really to spec like they should be when you do this. So you can get them, the spacing isn't the same when you do that. So I'm just going to go back to the way they were. That's why I always will highlight them, and I grab this tool here, because what it's going to do, it's going to go ahead and space them out evenly between all of them. See how it does that? Or if you were to grab the end of it here and just try to drag it out a little bit, this is going to be exaggerated, but see how it spreads the letters out? Now they're no longer the font that they should be. So there's my little no, we're not going to save that. So there's my little tip on text, on spacing out the text. Like I said, there might be an easier way to do it, and it looks like I'm taking a long time to do that. Well, sometimes it does, but once you get better at it, it's a lot quicker. I can move along really quick without having to stop and explain what I'm doing, but this is what the purpose of my videos was to try to explain to you how I do it. And I always end up with on-spec signs that are just, when you pull up your sheet and you start comparing all these little specs on how the center line, how it's the dead is lined up, and the distance across and everything, there's nothing you can do to pick that sign apart that's not going to make it MUTCD compliant. It's got everything exactly the way it should be, and that's the way I like to do my signs, is exact. And I don't like to take a lot of shortcuts. I might take 3 left turns to make a right, but I end up there, and it works for me, and the county's happy because I got the reputation of my signs are always spot on, and there's never anything usually wrong with them. So this is kind of my little way of showing you the text, and we're going to jump back in my next little exciting episode. I think we'll jump back into some more borders. I got a couple more border tricks to show you guys. So anyways, thanks for watching this segment of adding text. Alrighty.